In an age shrouded by myth and blood, where the dark forests of Germania whispered secrets of vengeance and honor, a momentous clash was brewing, a battle that would forever alter the destiny of empires. This is the story of Idistaviso, a land where the relentless spirit of the Teutonic tribes rose in defiance of imperial arrogance, where revenge for ancient wounds was wrought in iron and flame. Here, amid the tangled undergrowth and echoing battle cries, the stage was set for a confrontation that transcended generations, a reckoning of pride, betrayal, and unyielding resilience. In the depths of history, where legends are born from the clash of swords and the cries of the fallen, the revenge of Teutoburg was about to be inscribed in blood upon the soil. A cold mist clung to the dense woods near Idistaviso, as dusk yielded to a star-strewn night. In the flickering glow of torches, the hardened faces of the Teutonic warriors told silent stories of past humiliation and a burning desire for retribution. They had heard the tales of a mighty empire that once laughed at their defiance, of legions that marched in unyielding formation only to be undone by the wild spirit of the untamed north. Now, beneath the ancient boughs of towering oaks, these fierce souls gathered in secret, forging plans in whispered council, a pact bound by blood and the promise of revenge. Among them strode Wolfharth, a chieftain scarred by old wounds and driven by a relentless need to restore honor. His eyes, fierce as the winter winds, scanned the assembly as he spoke of ancient betrayal, of a time when Roman legions had struck down his ancestors. His words carried the weight of destiny. Tonight, we summon the wrath of our forefathers. Tonight, we reclaim our honor by striking at the heart of our oppressors. His voice echoed against the stone and mist, igniting a spark in the hearts of his warriors. In that sacred gathering, destiny was reborn, and the seeds of a vengeful uprising took root. As the night deepened, the forest itself seemed to come alive with murmurs of fate. The ancient trees, witnesses to centuries of triumph and despair, swayed as if to counsel the gathered host. Every rustle of leaves and snap of a twig resonated with the voices of ancestors, their silent guidance fueling the resolve of the warriors. The Teutons believed that nature itself was an ally in their cause, a force that would help turn the tide against the mighty Roman war machine. In the heart of the forest, hidden clearings served as impromptu strategy halls. Around crackling fires, maps etched in rough sketches were unfurled and studied by men whose lives had been molded by hardship and the unyielding wild. Stories of previous skirmishes, small victories against overwhelming odds, were recounted with fervor, each tale a testament to the indomitable will of a people scorned by fate. Here, in the murky twilight, the plan for the ambush at Idistaviso was born, a bold gambit to reclaim dignity, a decisive moment where the ancient wrongs of Teutoburg would be avenged. Not far from the shadowed woodlands, remnants of Roman banners fluttered in the breeze like tattered ghosts. The memory of a calamitous defeat at Teutoburg had long haunted the corridors of Rome, a humiliating loss that had dented the pride of an empire once thought invincible. For the Teutonic tribes, that bitter wound had never healed. Every generation had carried with it the ember of that past insult, nurturing it into a blazing fire of retribution. In hushed voices, elders recounted the betrayal, the overreach of imperial ambition that had left a scar upon the soul of Germania. In the dim light of the camp, Wolfharth listened intently as his lieutenants recounted the details of ancient battles, a time when Roman standards had fallen and the honor of the Teutons had been trampled. Let every Roman who thinks himself invincible tremble at the sound of our coming, one warrior vowed, his voice trembling with both rage and hope. The air was thick with the weight of shared grief and unyielding resolve, as each man vowed that the day of reckoning was at hand. The embers of past suffering now ignited a fierce determination to reclaim lost honor. Before the first light of dawn, emissaries had been dispatched to every hidden hamlet and secluded valley of Germania, from the misty shores of the Baltic to the rugged hills of the central forests. Warriors of every clan answered the call. They came clad in furs and leather, their faces painted with war symbols and streaked with the grime of a hard life, united by a single purpose: to exact revenge upon those who had once humiliated them on the battlefield of Teutoburg. In secret meeting places deep within the wilderness, allegiances were forged with solemn oaths. The promise of a new dawn, one free from the oppression of Roman might, resonated like a rallying cry. Tales of heroic ancestors and prophetic visions spurred the assembly to greater fervor. They trained relentlessly, perfecting the art of ambush in the unforgiving terrain they called home. With every clash of practiced swords and every arrow released from a crude bow, the warriors honed not only their skills but also the spirit of defiance that would carry them into the coming storm. Far to the south, in the heart of the Roman Empire, the legions marched with the precision and arrogance that had long been their hallmark. The mighty eagle standards, symbols of imperial authority, glistened in the light of the rising sun. Unaware of the storm gathering in the northern forests, the Roman commanders reveled in their victories and planned their next conquest with confidence. They recalled the infamous victory at Teutoburg as a distant blemish, a minor setback soon forgotten in the grandeur of their expanding dominion. Legionaries, drilled in formations perfected through decades of conquest, moved in unison along the ancient roads. Their minds were filled with visions of order and the destiny of civilization, each man a cog in the vast imperial machine. But deep within the disciplined ranks, a subtle unease began to stir, a premonition of a peril that lay hidden among the tangled woods. For the Roman commanders, the path to victory was paved with certainty, yet destiny, cloaked in the mystique of the German wild, had a different design. As the Roman legions advanced, the terrain slowly transformed from well-trodden roads to rugged trails bordered by thick forest and treacherous marshes. The boundary between the civilized and the untamed blurred, and the air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and impending rain. It was here, at the threshold of Idistaviso, a region whispered about in both fear and reverence, that the two worlds were destined to collide. For days, scouts from both sides monitored the shifting patterns of movement. In the quiet pre-dawn hours, Teutonic warriors would vanish into the gloom, their eyes fixed on the silhouettes of marching soldiers. The Romans, in their methodical advance, failed to perceive the silent watchers hidden within the underbrush. The stage was set for a grand ambush, a moment where the art of guerrilla warfare would challenge the disciplined might of Rome. As the two forces drew inexorably nearer, the spirit of ancient vengeance stirred in the hearts of the Teutons, promising that retribution was finally at hand. In the secret heart of their encampment, the Teutonic leaders gathered to refine their plan. The landscape of Idistaviso, with its winding streams, thick copse of trees, and hidden clearings, offered natural advantages that the native warriors knew intimately. They would use every twist and turn of the terrain to their benefit, turning the open ground into a labyrinth where the disciplined Roman formations would falter. Wulfharth, the resolute chieftain, outlined the plan with a voice both commanding and prophetic. "We shall lure them into our domain, where the earth itself becomes our weapon. When they break formation and enter the maze of our woods, we shall unleash the fury of the Teutonic spirit. Our arrows will rain down like the vengeance of the gods, and our axes will carve a path of retribution through their ranks." His words were met with fierce cries and pounding of war drums, a promise that every drop of Roman blood would atone for ancient wrongs. The strategy was simple, yet bold: to transform the battleground into an arena where the raw, untamed power of the wild would shatter the illusions of Roman invincibility. Under a sky splattered with stars, the night before the battle was spent in quiet preparation and intense anticipation. In the flickering light of oil lamps and the soft glow of campfires, warriors revisited old legends, their voices weaving a tapestry of ancestral pride and the inevitability of retribution. The air was filled with the murmur of prayers and oaths, as families and clans united in the hope of a new dawn, a dawn where honor would be restored. The night was long, and every rustle in the dark forest stirred the imagination of those awaiting the morrow. Some claimed to hear the voices of their forebears urging them forward. Others saw spectral visions of past glories. Amid this charged atmosphere, the Teutons slept fitfully, their dreams haunted by the images of a great reckoning. In the solitude of the night, every man contemplated the sacrifice that lay ahead, knowing that the coming day might be his last, but also that his death could serve as the spark for an eternal flame of freedom. With the first light of dawn, a solemn determination gripped the Teutonic warriors. The mists that had blanketed the forest slowly lifted, revealing the rugged contours of Idistaviso, a land that had borne witness to countless trials and now stood as the final stage for their vengeance. Quietly, the warriors readied their arms, checking their bows, sharpening their axes, and fortifying their resolve. There was no turning back. Today, the legacy of Teutoburg would be avenged. Across the moor, the rumble of the approaching Roman legions grew louder. The disciplined march of the soldiers, the clatter of their armor, and the rhythmic beat of their formation signaled the arrival of an empire confident in its might. Yet, as the Roman standards advanced toward the dense woodlands, a subtle shift in the air foretold of the ambush to come, a moment when the fury of the wild would converge with the human thirst for retribution. As the Romans entered the narrow passage of the forest, the ambush was sprung with a sudden, ferocious intensity. From concealed positions behind ancient trees and across hidden banks of marsh, Teutonic archers loosed volleys of arrows that darkened the morning sky. The arrows, honed with the precision of a practiced hand and fueled by centuries of grudges, found their marks with deadly certainty. The disciplined Roman ranks faltered as chaos erupted among their lines, a chaos meticulously orchestrated by warriors who knew every twist of the land. In the confusion, the Teutonic infantry surged forth. With battle cries that reverberated through the forest like the roar of an unleashed tempest, they charged into the disoriented ranks of the enemy. The clash of steel against steel, the anguished cries of the wounded, and the roar of defiant battle melded into a cacophony that echoed across the age-old trees. This was the moment of reckoning, a day when ancient grievances were avenged and the price of imperial arrogance was measured in blood. Within the melee, individual acts of valor shone like sparks amidst the inferno of combat. A young warrior named Armin, whose eyes burned with the fire of vengeance, leapt from behind a shattered tree to confront a Roman centurion. Their duel, feindselig and unyielding, became a microcosm of the broader conflict, a struggle where honor was the only currency, and every blow was a testament to centuries of suppressed fury. As their weapons clashed in a dance of fate, each man fought not only for victory, but for the resurrection of an ancestral pride long denied. Elsewhere, a seasoned veteran, Branimir, rallied his comrades with shouts that stirred the very air. for our fallen kin and the shame of our past. Fight as though your very soul depended upon it." His words, laced with both sorrow and unbreakable resolve, spurred the warriors onward. With every falling Roman shield and every shattered spear, the tide of the battle seemed to bend toward the inexorable will of the Teutons. In the heart of the engagement, amidst the chaos and the carnage, the spirit of Teutoburg was reborn in a blaze of retributive fire. In the midst of the overwhelming assault, the disciplined Roman legions attempted to regroup and mount a counter-offensive. Their commanders, masters of order and strategy, barked commands through the din of battle, striving to restore formation and regain the momentum lost in the ambush. The clamor of reinforcements, the pounding of boots on mud, and the determined efforts to rally their shattered lines spoke of a power that had for so long dominated the battlefields of Europe. Yet, the forest proved an unforgiving arena for the Roman discipline. The Teutonic warriors, at home amidst the twisting paths and shadowed clearings, turned every natural feature into a weapon. In pockets of savage resistance, they harried the reorganizing legions, their guerrilla tactics sowing confusion and fear. The once mighty formation began to fragment under the relentless barrage of arrows and the swift, brutal strikes of axes and swords. In this crucible of defiance, the spirit of Teutoburg asserted itself, unyielding and vengeful. As the battle raged, a singular cry of vengeance rose above the clamor. A cry that reverberated in the hearts of every warrior present. It was a sound born of centuries of suppressed pain and an unquenchable desire to restore honor. Wolfharth, the chieftain, rallied his men with a voice that transcended mortal fear. "Let every drop of Roman blood honor our past. Today, we reclaim what was stolen by arrogance and tyranny." His cry ignited a fervor that swept through the ranks, a tidal wave of rage and determination that overwhelmed even the remnants of the Roman counter. In the ensuing moments, the battlefield became a canvas painted in red, a brutal testament to the cost of imperial pride. The Teutonic warriors fought with a ferocity that was as much ritual as it was revenge. Each strike a deliberate act of defiance against an empire that had long underestimated the spirit of its adversaries. The day would forever be marked as the moment when the wild reclaimed its due, when the revenge of Teutoburg was carved into the annals of history. As the morning wore on, the momentum of battle shifted ever more in favor of the native warriors. The once organized Roman legions, battered by relentless guerrilla tactics and the unforgiving terrain, began to yield. Every Roman standard that fell, every commander lost in the maelstrom of combat, served as a symbolic victory for the Teutons. In the swirling chaos of the forest, discipline gave way to desperation, a stark contrast to the cold, calculated methods of imperial conquest. Amid the turmoil, the leaders of the Teutonic alliance marshaled their strength. Recognizing that the enemy was on the defensive, they pressed their advantage with unyielding determination. From every concealed vantage, warriors surged forth, their war cries merging into a single mighty roar, a roar that signaled the inexorable tide of vengeance. The battle lines blurred, and as the sun climbed higher, the field at Idistaviso became an arena where every heartbeat resonated with the promise of retribution. The symbolic fall of the Roman eagle, the standard of the empire, marked a turning point in the engagement. In a desperate bid to reclaim order, the Roman commanders had rallied around the sacred emblem of their might. Yet, as the eagle was torn from its pole and trampled in the chaos, it signified not only the physical collapse of the formation, but also the shattering of imperial pride. The fall of the eagle resonated deeply among both conquerors and the conquered. For the Teutonic warriors, it was the ultimate vindication of long-held grievances. a moment when history itself tilted in favor of the oppressed. In the ensuing hours, the battlefield transformed into a place of reckoning. The Romans, now scattered and leaderless, were forced to retreat under the relentless assault. The wild forest, once a silent witness to centuries of tradition and struggle, bore the scars of a battle fought on its soil, a reminder that no empire, however mighty, could subdue the indomitable spirit of a people united in the cause of revenge. Yet victory came at a heavy cost. As the surviving warriors of the Teutonic host surveyed the aftermath, the price of their triumph was measured not only in shattered Roman formations, but in the blood and tears of their fallen kin. In quiet moments amidst the ruin, the warriors recalled the sacrifice of those who had given everything for the honor of their people. Their grief was profound, a solemn reminder that the path of vengeance was paved with sorrow and the weight of lost lives. In the heart of the forest, where the echoes of battle lingered like ghostly lamentations, the warriors performed rites of remembrance. They gathered around makeshift altars, inscribing the names of the fallen into the annals of their memory, ensuring that every sacrifice would be honored in the generations to come. For in the pursuit of vengeance, the Teutons had discovered not only the strength to overcome an empire, but also the bittersweet truth that every victory was born of sacrifice. As the remnants of the Roman legions receded into the distance, the forest of Idistaviso fell into a heavy silence. The battle had been won, but the cost was etched into the land and the souls of those who had fought. The warriors, now battered and scarred, gathered in solemn assembly to recount the events of the day, a day that would echo in the legends of Teutoburg for centuries to come. They spoke of moments of unyielding bravery, of comrades lost in the frenzy of battle, and of the triumph of a people who had reclaimed their honor from the jaws of an empire. Amid the soft murmur of the wind through ancient trees, the survivors vowed that the memory of this day would be preserved for all time. The forest, with its silent witness to both glory and grief, became a sacred ground, a monument to the fierce spirit of Teutoburg. In the days and weeks that followed, the news of the great victory spread like wildfire through the Germanic lands. Villages and hamlets, once subdued by fear and the weight of imperial oppression, awakened to a new reality, a reality where the echoes of vengeance inspired hope and the promise of freedom. Tales of the battle at Idistaviso were recounted by wandering bards and around humble hearths, each telling adding layers of myth and honor to the collective memory. The victory was more than a mere military triumph. It was a turning point in the struggle for the soul of a people. It signaled the end of an era of submission and the dawn of a new age, one where the wild spirit of the Teutons would be celebrated as a beacon of resistance against the might of empires. The legacy of the battle became a rallying cry for future generations, a story of how the smallest among them could defy the most imposing adversary with courage, cunning, and an unyielding will to be free. In the wake of the battle, the political landscape of the region began to shift. The great Roman legions, humiliated and diminished, were forced to reconsider their strategies in a land that now brimmed with defiant spirit and rebellious might. For the Teutons, the victory at Idistaviso was the foundation upon which a new order would be built, one that cherished freedom, honor, and the unbreakable bonds of kinship. Clans and tribes, long divided by petty disputes, found unity in the shared experience of battle. Councils were convened in the great halls of nature, where decisions that would shape the future were made with wisdom drawn from centuries of oral tradition. The reverberations of the conflict reached the distant courts of neighboring tribes, inspiring alliances that transcended former rivalries. A new sense of purpose blossomed among the Teutons, a belief that their destiny was to live free, to honor their past, and to forge a future defined by the strength of their spirit. Years turned into decades, and the memory of the battle at Idistaviso became an enduring legend, a story told and retold around flickering fires and in the whispered verses of epic poems. The fields and forests where the great clash had taken place, transformed into sacred sites, hallowed by the sacrifices of those who had bled to reclaim their honor. Statues, runic carvings, and memorial stones were erected in remembrance of the fallen, each inscription a solemn tribute to the price of freedom. The legacy of Teutoburg and the revenge of Idistaviso became more than just a chapter in history. It evolved into a cultural cornerstone for the Germanic tribes. It was a tale that celebrated both the brutality of war and the transcendence of the human spirit. A reminder that even the mightiest empires could be challenged by the resolve of those who fought not for conquest, but for justice and dignity. The story was immortalized in songs, sagas, and the collective heart of a people reborn from the ashes of oppression. As seasons passed and the scars of battle slowly faded into the natural rhythms of the land, a new era of prosperity and independence dawned. The victory at Idistaviso had not only avenged an ancient wrong, but had also laid the foundations for a society built on the principles of freedom, resilience, and unity. Trade routes reopened, alliances were solidified, and the once fragmented clans united under the banner of a common destiny. The echoes of the past, though forever etched in memory, now served as inspiration for a brighter future. In the face of adversity, the Teutonic people had transformed their grief into strength and their desire for revenge into a legacy of hope. The forest of Idistaviso, now quiet but still resonant with the whispers of heroes, became a place where the living and the dead met in the eternal dialogue of remembrance and renewal. Centuries later, when the modern world marveled at the ruins and relics of ancient battles, the story of Idistaviso was still told with reverence and awe. Scholars, historians, and storytellers combed through faded manuscripts and weathered runes to piece together the epic tale of revenge and valor. Museums and monuments were erected in honor of those who had once stood against overwhelming odds, and the lessons of that long-ago conflict became a beacon for those who sought to understand the true cost of freedom. In classrooms and academies, the battle was analyzed not merely as an event of the past, but as a timeless parable of resistance against tyranny. It was a reminder that every generation must stand vigilant in the defense of its values, and that the sacrifices of the past hold lessons for the future. The story of Idistaviso transcended time, a living legacy that connected the hearts of the modern with the spirit of ancient warriors. As the final light of the day receded into twilight, the spirit of the Teutonic warriors lived on, a spectral echo that reminded all who heard it of the price of honor and the power of unity. In the quiet solitude of a forest clearing, where the wind whispered secrets of bygone days, a lone figure inscribed a final tribute upon a weathered stone. For those who fell, for those who rose, our honor endures. This inscription, simple yet profound, encapsulated the eternal truth of Idistaviso, that the struggle for justice and dignity is an unending saga, written in the language of sacrifice and redeemed by the enduring light of hope. Thus, the story of the Battle of Idistaviso, the revenge of Teutoburg, was not merely a chapter of bloodshed and conquest. It was an epic tale of how a people, driven by the ghosts of their past and the promise of a free future, dared to challenge an empire and emerged victorious. It was a saga that would inspire countless generations to rise in defiance of oppression, to remember the sacrifices of their ancestors, and to honor the timeless legacy of honor and valor.